So Kelly has been a former customer of ours here at CauseVox, and we have partnered with Kelly as she's created her consultant or coaching programs. So you can find her at your nonprofit coach, and she is over 10 years of experience working at organizations to help them really grow their fundraising. And so, yeah, Kelly, I would love to just have you take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Candace. Well, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Hold on just a second. Let me see if I can get that going. All right. All right, so wellness at work. Thanks, Candace, for that excellent intro. I always love working with CauseVox because, as you noted, I started my journey as a customer when I was a director of development, and as I've transitioned into this coaching program, Candace and Rob have been so supportive. So I always love working with y'all. You're just so supportive and wonderful.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's always so great to have you. Like, we get such great, like, every time you do something with us, everyone really enjoys it. So thank you for sharing your insights. It's
always glad to.
Good stuff.
Well, I know you can probably see me in a corner of your screen, but there's also a picture of me. A little bit about myself. As Candace said, I have 10 years of nonprofit management experience. I am also a mom, as I mentioned. I'm also, what's unique, I guess, what I bring to this is I'm also a former fitness trainer. I'm certified personal trainer. I'm also a runner, and in addition to being a management coach, I'm also a person living with a physical disability. So lots of identities there, and I'm sure everybody's bring all of their unique identities. We deal with them, we bring them to work, and some of that can be really, really stressful. And so I'm guessing for everybody reading this, sitting in on this, if you work at a nonprofit, you probably wear a million hats in addition to the ones you wear in your personal life. And so finding time to prioritize yourself in all of that can feel really impossible to a lot of folks. So I want to say, first of all, you are awesome for spending the time on this summit, furthering your learning, and taking time to further your craft as a fundraiser. But also, thanks for sitting in on this session, because I want you to know you're prioritizing yourself for the next 15, 20 minutes, and that's also a huge undertaking. So congratulations for being here today. I also want to start by saying I'm not a licensed therapist, so a lot of this information about stress and stress management, it's not meant to be taken as medical advice, just great practices that you can do to help yourself in the midst of a really challenging time right now. But if you really are struggling with your mental health, I do encourage you to seek out a professional therapist. They can be really, really helpful in times like this. So that can be a part of your self-care as well. All right, so I'm going to start out with a bit of a reading recommendation. There's a wonderful book. It's called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. They really hit the nail on the head about what is really, really hard about being in a caring professional like most of us are in the nonprofit world, and particularly why women and women of color in the United States are experiencing such terrible states of chronic stress right now. And they also acknowledge a lot of the reasons we feel self-care is so hard. So this is just a 20-minute session, but if you really want to deep dive into stress and stress management and keeping burnout at bay, I really highly recommend this book. So much so that it's an entire slide, so you can take note of the title and the authors. Whoops. So what is self-care? In the best of times, nonprofit life can be stressful. Our missions feel very urgent and our to-do lists are often overflowing. Our organizations are under-resourced and we care so much about our work that it's hard for a lot of us to feel like we can step away. So I feel like we were already at stress points, burnout points before the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic kind of tossed fuel on that flame and made us all feel very close to the edge of burnout. I know I've talked to quite a few people who are feeling that pressure right now. So self-care is, we're going to use the Oxford English Dictionary definition. It's the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress, which is a very nice, lovely definition. I actually prefer this quote by Angela Davis. That is, I want you to take this away from the presentation, is anyone who is interested in making change in the world also has to learn how to take care of herself, himself, their self. I feel like self-care can often be a cute wellness buzzword, but I want to talk about, in the next 10 minutes, I want to talk about what it should mean in an industry where burnout rates are high and where we kind of see self-sacrifice sometimes as a way of life. So we can only give of ourselves to the degree that we take care of ourselves. And your mission really gets nowhere if you're exhausted. So I do want you to take that away from this presentation, is self-care is actually a way we can serve our missions better. Okay, so quick and easy. Chronic stress is a big problem, and it is something that requires a lot of time and attention to overcome. But these are some tips and tricks I have for easy stress management at your desk, kind of in those stressful moments, so that they don't pile up and pile up and pile up undealt with. So the first tip I've got for you is stay aware of your breathing. When you notice you're breathing faster than normal, that can be a key sign that you're getting stressed. If you're like me, I sometimes don't realize I'm stressed out until I am so deep into a stress cycle that it's hard to pull myself out of it. And I've noticed that faster breathing and that sensation is an indication that I need to take a beat and back down a little bit. So my first recommendation is take some time every day to tap into your breathing and notice what else you're feeling if you notice that your breathing rate is elevated. For me, I notice when I do tap into my breath and feel that that sense of breathing faster and everything, one thing that pairs with that for me is just a total and utter lack of focus. So when I notice that lack of focus, that's something I notice sometimes more often than elevated breathing. So it's something that takes a little time and attention, but it's something worth focusing on a few times throughout your day. When you notice that you're getting stressed, taking some deep breaths, just 10 deep breaths can put you back kind of in control and slow down your stress a little bit. Then get mindful. I know this is a big one. There are some great apps out there for guided meditation, or you can just set a timer and do it silently. The trick here is to just focus on your breath and let thoughts come and go. And observe them. So I love the analogy of mindfulness being observing your thoughts like they're cars passing you on a street. You're not going to run after the car. You're not going to step in front of the car. You're just going to watch the car go by and just note that it was there. And that's the same approach you want to take to your thoughts in moments of stress. My favorite app right now is called Shine. It's absolutely my favorite app on my phone right now. It's got meditations, guided meditations, journaling exercises, and even a daily check-in with, we were talking about artificial intelligence, with kind of a chat bot that helps you process your thoughts. It was designed by 2 women of color, and I love it right now. Then another tip is get moving. Take just a 5-minute walk if you notice that you're getting stressed. If you're stuck at home, do it around the house. Pacing the house is fine. Just try and get up and move your body. It's a natural thing that we want to do when we feel stress, is we want to move. We get anxious and we want to move around. So one of the tips I like to employ is if you're feeling stressed out, get up, start walking around. And instead of focusing on racing thoughts, notice the sensation of your foot making contact with the floor. Focus on that for a while, that sensation, and that can kind of slow down your thoughts. And last, tap into your senses. If kind of more structured meditation isn't really your jam, which it is not mine, you can tap into your senses to get a similar result. So one thing I like to do myself is to grab some water or tea or coffee and spend 5 minutes, set a timer for 5 minutes, and focus on your drink and using each of your sensations. So what does it look like? What does it smell like? How does the cup feel in your hand? How does the drink taste or feel in your mouth? It's really just, sit down and enjoy your coffee sometimes. I know that's so hard for us to do when there are so many things on your to-do list, but setting a timer and just tapping into those senses for 5 minutes can be a wonderful act of self-care. So what does self-care really mean? For me, I like to say that self-care is what works for you. I've got a few tips, but self-care is something that you can really identify for yourself. So it should incorporate movement. This helps your body complete stress cycles, and there's a whole ton of science in that burnout book about why that works. But just moving your body, movement out in nature, where you're getting movement plus the vitamin D from the sunshine plus fresh air can be really, really helpful. And I know that's a little fraught right now for quite a lot of people. But a dance party in your living room is also movement that can kind of create that space and complete the stress cycle for you. The main thing that dictates self-care, in my opinion, and from the sources that I read, is about your intentionality. So an example I like to use is if you're going to binge watch Netflix for hours, that's not necessarily self-care. That can verge towards more of numbing behavior. However, if I know personally, if I really need to cry, and I'm not letting myself cry, I can sometimes put on a TV show on Netflix that I know always makes me cry. And I'll put that on as a way to process my emotions and let out that stress. But that's making a deliberate choice to do that, not just, I had a rough day, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine and binge watch Netflix for the next 3 hours. So I like to say it's not Netflix and chill, it's Netflix and stress relief, and feeling your emotions. So that's something that I like to use as a gauge for self-care. Is it something that's going to let you feel your emotions and process the stress you're feeling? But what that looks like to different people is different things. For me, that's running, because I love running. For my husband, running gives him all kinds of anxiety, and he goes into the kitchen and cooks, which is wonderful for me. But if you dropped me in a kitchen and said, oh yeah, relieve your stress by cooking, it just doubles down on my stress. So really self-care is your own thing, and you've got to navigate that and identify it for yourself, despite, I think, what some wellness sites want to tell us. So how to stick to self-care. I put this photo in here because this is what my life looks like. I've got a 4-year-old that's constantly climbing all over me when I'm trying to work out or meditate or anything. So sticking to self-care can be really tough. I totally hear all the parents out there right now trying to do your jobs and homeschool and all those things right now. So here are a couple tricks that I like to use. One is called habit stacking. So that's taking something you do every day and pairing it with a self-care measure. So for me, one of the things I do before I open my email when I start working is I try and do a 5-minute meditation. I'm not talking 10 minutes, I'm not talking an hour. 5 minutes is plenty, just to have a moment to sit with myself. And most of the time that's something I can sneak in as a parent and all my other hats. One thing I used to do also as a development director is I was really having trouble leaving the office at 5. And so I set an alarm for 4:30, and I would make donor thank you calls until 5. I would close up my laptop and I would have written down the donors I was going to call. It was lovely because I would end my day with gratitude. I would have called donors that I needed to call and thank anyway. And it also got me out the door most of the time by 5 if I didn't catch a chatty donor. So that was a practice that I used to make sure I got out the door on time. So thinking about ways you can habit stack. Triggers are similar to habit stacking, but a little more ad hoc. So making a list of things that are stressful and then pairing that with something that will wind you back down or feels like self-care. So that's something where, you know, maybe grab a journal and take a few minutes to think about what are things that are common stressors that I'm experiencing a lot right now, and what is something I can do to recharge or take care of myself when those things happen. So it's a kind of if this, then that scenario that you can think through. And then the last thing, morning and evening routines. You see this on a lot of wellness websites. It's not for nothing. It's because they're really helpful. If I'm not, and you don't have to have both. I don't have a morning routine because I have a toddler. But I have an evening routine because I start my evening routine with her bedtime. So I put her to bed, and then I kind of have a set number of things that I go through until it's kind of time for my bedtime. And I set a bedtime for myself like I'm a toddler, because otherwise I find I just stay up all night. So for me, it's I put my daughter to bed, and then I do one chore. So normally it's cleaning or something, because it's something that I find tames my anxiety, which I deal with quite a lot of anxiety. I set an alarm for that chore for 30 minutes, and then I do about a 10 or 15 minute meditation, do a quick journal activity, and then I get in bed and read until I'm tired and want to turn off the light. So something like that. It's not complicated. It's just something that's going to wind you down and get you ready for sleep, because if you're answering work emails till the second your head hits the pillow, you're gonna find yourself not really ready for sleep or dreaming about work all night. So that's something we definitely want to avoid. So a couple things that you can think about are culture shifts within your institution. And these are things on the individual level, these are things you can activate that I don't feel you need kind of a blessing from on high to institute within your organization. So things I've seen is lunch with a colleague once a week, somebody who maybe is in your department or is in a different department that you can just chat with. I've seen also organizations that will say, you know, not right now, but that will say that the conference room is open. Nobody can book it for meetings from noon to 1, and anybody who wants to eat can eat together there. I think that's a lovely practice, and not everybody has to join every day, but I think that's such a nice practice. That's something you might be able to replicate in kind of a Zoom lunch where you're not allowed to talk about work, but at least can connect with your colleagues that way right now. I've seen step count challenges with pedometers, which is quite fun. A lot of, you know, Fitbit, Garmin have those kind of, you can set up a challenge and people can participate. That's quite a fun thing to do, just to encourage healthy habits amongst colleagues. One lovely thing I saw somebody do was when she joined a yoga studio that was nearby to her office, she negotiated a discount for any of the colleagues from the nonprofit that joined the yoga studio as well. And then a lot of people, they actually were all trying to get to a 5:30 yoga class every day. So everybody left the office at 5, which was just such a great way that she helped create this, you know, from an individual perspective, she took that initiative and did this great thing for the whole organization. I've also seen book clubs be a great thing for within organizations to kind of create some culture shifts around wellness. However, if you're in a leadership role, you can kind of take some other actions to create kind of a more sustainable, healthy workplace. And these are all things that are not going to cost any additional money for your organization. As a boss, leave on time. If you say quitting time's at 5 and you stay till 6, you're setting a standard for your employees that says, you know, do as I do, not as I say. So be aware of that kind of pressure that you're pushing down to your to the people who report to you. Similarly, when you're sick or on vacation, don't send emails, don't work unless you absolutely have to. Then the other thing is, when employees are sick or on vacation and they do work, remind them not to. I will forever be grateful to a boss who, one day I was having a migraine and I was homesick. I'd taken the day off sick. I was trying to work with a migraine when I'd taken a sick day. And my boss actually called me and said, I'm calling you, not texting you, because you're not supposed to be looking at screens because you have a migraine. So get off and I will talk to you tomorrow. And that was just so helpful, because we love our missions. We care so much. And having a boss say, not today, Kelly, was such a lovely thing. Having a written policy that sick leave extends to mental health can be helpful. Trying walking meetings when we can talk and be in each other's presence is something to consider. The last thing I would recommend is using the schedule feature on Mail to send email during work hours, even if you are working after hours. So let's say you work great at 10 p.m. That's something you really want to do. Use the schedule feature to send that email the next day at 9 a.m. Because when your employees see you sending emails at 10 o'clock at night, they think they are expected to be answering emails at 10 o'clock at night. So just be aware of those pressures that you're putting on your employees or colleagues by setting those standards. And then last, Candace is talking about this in the promotions, but if there's something I can help you with or issues I can help your organization work through, you can go to fitnonprofit.com/causebox, and I am offering 1-hour free consultations to anybody at the summit that we can talk through these issues and think about them for your organization. So that's what I've got. I don't know, Candace, if we want to do some Q&A or if we're ready to move on.
Yeah. So I'll see if any questions come in. I think the couple of questions that I saw were like, wait, what was that? And so I tried to answer those as they came in. And so I'm just curious to hear from, everyone that's listening in. What are some of the self-care tips or routines that you do to keep you sane in this crazy time that we're all going through? So I would love to just hear from all of you about what you recommend. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I'm gonna also paste in the link to that your consultation. I highly recommend that you all take Kelly up on the offer. As you can tell, she's amazing, and she will give you a lot of guidance for fundraising at your nonprofit, and really all things nonprofit related, it seems, right? I feel like you're pretty holistic, right?
Yes. Yeah, I've worn a lot of hats in 10 years. So,
yeah. So here's the link if anyone would like to take Kelly up on the offer. So thank you again for offering that free consultation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Some people knit daily. I see.
I'm loving seeing these.
Move to a 4-day work week. That sounds, wow. That sounds nice. Let's see what else we got. Some like people writing, no meetings on Fridays. I like that.
That's really fun.
Cool. Few more responses coming in. Don't open your laptop once it's closed. Walk a few minutes. Nice. Closing at 3 p.m. on Friday. Oh, phone on do not disturb all night. That's a good one.
Yes. Oh,
that's
I do that.
That's a good one.
You can set it to turn on automatically too on iPhones. So that is, I did not include that one, but that is an excellent one.
Baking's nice. I feel like I want it to be stress relief for me, but I am then upset that it didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. So I will leave that to the more talented among us. Amazing. So thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us for that wellness session.